guys, it's me Rebecca. So I'm here today to do my May wrap up as well as discuss a couple books I plan to read in June so far. So yeah, in May I read twice the amount of books I read in April, which makes sense as in April I did read one specific tome and read 4 books overall in April, and in May I read 9 books. So yeah, let's get started with the first book I was able to finish in May, which is When I Was Deaf by Alexis Henderson. And this is about Rosalind isn't herself anymore. It's almost been a year since her sister Adeline died under mysterious circumstances, and Rosalind is still tormented by her absence. So when the caravan of girls that Adeline spent her last summer with rolls back into town, Rosalind joins them to finally figure out what happened to her sister. Strange, beautiful, and intriguing, the girls are closed off from the world, but they welcome Rosalind into their fold, deepening her fascination with their unique bond. As it turns out, the 6 girls are brought together by a force more sinister than Rosalind's nightmares could have conjured up. Death himself, Death incarnate, has spared the girls from ultimate endings, and to pay for their lives, the girls travel the country reaping souls on his behalf. Now Rosalind must decide if finding closure is worth the price of striking the same deal. And with this one, I did like the way grief is described, how Rosalind feels like a limb is missing when she thinks of her sister's death, and how the lack of explanation of of how she died and what happened before that caused her to kind of change and drives her to these girls, how her sister's death is causing her to be stuck in the past and not think of a future for herself. And we see how when she has to lead someone to the afterlife, she sees their life through their eyes, and how this does affect her. She's also just determined to learn the answers about her sister, that she risked her morals and mental health as she's falling apart. Yeah, the girls are there for one another, which I do like. And it's also interesting seeing the different methods each of them employed when killing, how some of them would do it they would do it quick and they don't have to see it as killing, while others try to bring peace. How they're all in this position because of a near-death experience, and with one girl in particular who's, I guess, almost the leader of the group, the one who communicates with death the most, a girl named Shallow. She feels it's her duty to protect them from dealing with death, and really, she's also the one who deals with the more unpleasant deaths or deep patches, and we see how she's not with the girls long, and we don't really see her relations with them, if she gets close to them or keeps them at a distance. Yet she claims they're like family, and which kind of threw me off because I just didn't really see the closeness of them, but I'm guessing they're the only ones really who know and who can understand what they're going through. And we see her, I guess, kind of developing something with Shallow that's, I don't know if it was really ever explored, or if Shallow, I mean, I feel I'm mispronouncing the name. But when her sister was with these girls, she would always be talking about Rosalind, and Shallow, in my opinion, it seems like she fell in love with the idea of Rosalind. So yeah, I would have liked to have explored more of that, but overall I just enjoyed really the grief sections of this novel, how she's getting her answers and kind of coming to an understanding, and in a way it's a step of her kind of moving forward. So yeah, overall I gave this 4 stars. Now the next book I finished in May was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. And this is about Edwin St. Andrew is 18 years old when he crosses the Atlantic by steamship. Exiled from polite English society following an ill-conceived bite at a dinner party. He enters the forest spellbound by the beauty of the Canadian wilderness, and suddenly hears the notes of a violin echoing in an airship terminal, an experience that shocks him to his core. 2 centuries later, a famous writer named Olive Lewin is on a book tour. She's traveling all over Earth, but her home is the second moon colony, a place of white stone spiral towers and artificial beauty. Within the text of Olive's best-selling pandemic novel lies a strange passage. A man plays his violin for spare change in the echoing corridor of an airship terminal as the trees of a forest rise around him. When Gatsby Roberts, a hotel detective in the black-skied night city, is hired to investigate an anomaly in a North American wilderness, he uncovers a series of lives upended. The exiled son of an earl driven to madness, a writer trapped far from home as a pandemic ravages Earth, and a childhood friend from the night city who, like Gatsby himself, has glimpsed a chance to do something extraordinary that will disrupt the timeline of the universe. And with this, there was this idea that none of this, like our reality, is real and that we're living in a simulation. That there is something flickering or going wrong with the system and with the events repeating itself and how they're interconnected to other events. I like the idea, but I'm like, it was I don't know. And we see the worry and panic at the beginning of a pandemic when there is a lot of unknown and not a lot of information. And I believe this is the novel she came out right after COVID, and I've only really read one novel where COVID was mentioned, The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. I believe that's the name. And I read it when we were starting to come out of the pandemic, and reading it when we were on the other end, like how people were reacting was quite interesting because we were starting to get answers, and yet we read it when COVID happened. There wasn't a lot of answers. There was a lot of unknown, and kind of being on the other end of that, I don't know, it made me feel a bit reflective. And we see how events are meant to occur and cannot be changed or altered in effects to ensure those events occur, how those who do try to change the events, they're punished severely, really. And you see the feelings the character has over the fact they were told they were supposed to die during the pandemic and how they avoided that and how they feel about that piece of information. And we see the anxiety people have during a pandemic, and yet we always have had this fascination, I would say, over apocalypse stories, and we want to believe that we are the climax of history, and with how often we believe the world will end. And I don't know, I always did find that quite interesting. So yeah, overall I liked it and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in May is The Woman in the Purple Skirt by Natsuko Imamura, and this was translated from the Japanese by Lucy North. And this is about almost every afternoon, the woman in a purple skirt sits on the same park bench where she eats a cream bun while the local children make a game of trying to get her attention. Perched as out of sight is the woman in a yellow cardigan, who monitors which buses she takes, what she eats, and whom she speaks to, and who lures her to a job as a hotel housekeeper. Soon the woman in the purple skirt is having an affair with the boss, and all eyes are on her, but no one knows or cares about the woman in a yellow cardigan. So with this, we just see how the woman in the purple skirt just reminds the woman in a yellow cardigan of a bunch of people. We see, like, she reminds her of her sister, who she's strange to, and I don't know, with the fact she reminds the woman of the yellow cardigan of so many people just makes the woman of the yellow cardigan believe that they're meant to be friends. And we also see the obsession the woman in the yellow cardigan and those in the neighborhood have for the woman in a purple skirt for some reason. Like how people want to get her attention and how she evokes reactions from people when she enters the room. But I couldn't really understand why. Like, we are never told what it is about her that causes people to react and why the narrator is so obsessed with her. And it's like gotten to the point, like, the woman in a yellow cardigan can be described as a stalker. Like, knowing where she lives and where she has worked and when she's worked and when she's been unemployed. I just didn't really understand that, because the woman in a purple cardigan just read to me as this woman who's quite shy, quite reserved. Like, she just read like any other woman to me. Really. I just didn't really, who as well doesn't really take care of herself hygienically, because the woman in a yellow cardigan will say, oh, her hair is so dirty, or her nails are unclean and whatnot. Yeah. But when the woman in the purple skirt gets this job at the hotel, we see how she's changing, becoming more confident, how she is interacting with the neighborhood children, and how she is at work, how she is becoming more sure of herself. But we see how people as well are quick to change their opinion of her. Like, when she first started working, they said a lot of nice things to her. They were always kind and generous towards her. And weird things started happening at work, like products would go missing, and the woman in a purple skirt just wasn't really taking the best care of her card, and it made some people upset. But really, when the gossip started that the woman in the purple skirt, was having this affair, people started being cold towards her. So I did like that, how people's opinion of people can change. But really, I just didn't really understand what the obsession was for this woman in the yellow cardigan. Like, what was it about the woman in the purple skirt, besides the fact she reminded her of a bunch of people? Like, I think there are ways to approach them if you want to be friends with them, besides doing what the woman in the yellow cardigan was doing. I don't know, I just found it a bit weird. And yeah, I did think this was interesting, but overall I just gave it a 3.5. So yeah. The next book I finished in May was A Beast Links Towards Beijing by Alice Evelyn Ng. And this is about Kanzi has not seen her father in 11 years, since he walked out of her life the night of her 14th birthday and disappeared without a trace. But then she gets a call. There is a man on a porch of her childhood home, and he's asking for her. This man isn't the Ba Kanzi remembers. He is older, more fragile, and worst of all, haunted by a half-forgotten prophecy. While Kanzi wrestles with what she owes this near stranger, Ba begins telling stories of his past. From his bloody days as a Red Guard during the Cultural Revolution to his mother's youth under Japanese occupation, he circles around the prophecy he came to deliver. Hansi has always longed to know more about her family history, but as Ba reveals a past far darker than she could have imagined, she finds herself plagued by strange visions. Fox spirits trail her on evening commute. A terrifying jackalope stalks her nightmares, and the looming prophecy sinks ever closer. And with this, we see Kanzi's feelings towards Ba being back in her life, how she's unsure of how she feels about it, and how she is now this different version of herself. Previously, she was before Ba returned, and now she is after, and it is affecting her relations to her boyfriend, and if she should tell her mother, and really that's not a question, she just doesn't really mention it. And she is trying to figure out what is going on with him, and why he's changed as he drinks and smokes, something he didn't do previously, and she is worried he might have dementia or Alzheimer's as he is living in the past. And we see his childhood and how things were for him and his family and what he had to do to survive and protect his family. He really only joined the Red Guard to protect his family because he thought it was something he had to do. And in order to protect his family, he also had to give a family member up because they were saying things that were extremely dangerous and could cause a lot of harm. And we have this exploration of history of family and how trauma can be passed down generationally, and how historical events can come into play, which we see with the uprise of Mao for Ba, or Myung, that is his name, and the Japanese occupation for his mother, and the exploration of what people have to do in order to survive and protect those they love, and what they end up doing to forget about what they've done to them, what's been done to them, and what they've been through, taken on addictions they promise they never take, or used to look down on those who have those addictions, and how others judge our actions when we meant to protect, or we didn't have a choice and those actions were forced on us. But yeah, overall I did like this and I gave it 4 stars. And I don't know if I'm leaving that bit in, but I tried to put the book down next to me, and the pie was pretty curious and everything does foul, so if you were that, yeah. But the next book I finished in May was Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and this is about ever since she was cursed by a fairy, Theodora Ettings has had no sense of fear or embarrassment, an unfortunate condition that leaves her prone to accidental scandal. Dora hopes to be a quiet, sensible wallflower during the London season, but when Elias Wilder, the handsome, peculiar, and utterly ill-mannered Lord Sorcerer, discovers her condition, she is instead drawn into a dangerous fairy affair. If her reputation can survive both her curse and her sudden connection with the least liked men in all high society, then she and her family may yet reclaim their normal place in the world. But the longer Dora spends with Elias, the more she begins to suspect that one may indeed fall in love with, even with only half a soul. And with this, we see how those who are looked down by high society for multiple reasons, whether that is their background, their physical scars, or if they're missing a part of themselves, are pushed together as they are seen as the only people who will accept them for who they are and how they appear in. With the one who's missing a part of themselves, we have a character in here who's close to the Lord Sorcerer and whose mother wants to push towards Dora, and it's because during war he had to have part of his arm amputated, and even if he's a war hero, he's still looked down because he's not entirely whole, I guess. And you see how this calls out the hypocrisy of the wealthy, how they put on a front of caring for the less fortunate while not actually caring and taking actions which causes the less fortunate to be in a position they're in and only caring about themselves, how they only realize what is happening when it's right in front of them, or when someone in higher society would feel about it and discuss it. And I did like the banter between Elias, Dora, and Albert. And Albert's the one who is missing a part of his arm, and how they were there for one another. And I also like there was no love triangle or whatever, because I just liked the friendship and relationships they would all have with one another, and how they were just there and supportive of one another. Like, I just like that a lot. But yeah, overall I just had fun with this and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in May was Those Who Leave and Those Who Stay by Elena Ferrante, and this was translated by by Anne Goldstein, and this is the third book in the Neapolitan Quartet, and with this one it's set in the late 1960s and the 1970s, and this continues the story of the feisty, rebellious Lila and her lifelong friend, the brilliant and bookish Elena. Lila is living with her young son in a new neighborhood of Naples and is working at the factory, and Elena has left Naples, earned a degree from an elite college, published a novel, all of which has opened doors to a world of learned and fascinating interlocutors. The era which its dramatic changes in sexual politics and social costumes, with its seemingly limitless new possibilities, is rendered with breathtaking vigor. This is not only a moving story of lifelong friendship, but also a searing portrait of a rapidly changing world. And with this, we do see the struggles the characters have in life and what life is like in the 1960s, 1970s Italy, and how the characters from the series, how they're getting married and having families and careers, but they're not always happy. And we see the way we see these characters grow and change, and the self-doubts the characters go through, how Elena takes the praise and criticism of her novel to heart, and how they affect how she feels about her book and how she does what she thinks she should do when talking about it. If she should talk about certain scenes or remain separate from the book, how Lila worries about not being a good enough mother, trying to get by work in an environment where it's this hostile and women are expected to deal with advances they don't want if they want to keep their jobs. How Elena feels about her writing, how she wants people to see she is good enough, smart enough. And we see Elena being successful in all ways of life, yet she is still trapped under Lila's spell, how she wants to help her and be there for her, and how Lila sometimes is nice to her, but other times can just be so cruel and taking her happiness and talking negatively about her to others. And we see how the communist groups are growing in their ideas and actions. How Lila has a part of it in the rise of feminism, and Elena figuring herself out and what she cares for. And we also see Elena also experience motherhood and her struggles in being a good enough mother and a wife to a husband who's not exactly there for her, and who she realizes has almost changed with their marriage, and how she realizes she just never really knew who she married. And yeah, overall I'm just having fun with this series. I'm enjoying it and really seeing the way characters are living, and yeah, overall I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in May was The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland, and this is about Colette Lestrange is a lonely artist who heads an elite fine art school for children in upstate New York. Her youthful beauty masks the dark truth of her life. She has endured centuries of turmoil and heartache in the wake of her grandfather's long-ago decision to make her immortal like himself. Now in 1984, Colette finds her life upended by the arrival of a gifted child from a troubled home, the return of a stalking presence from her past, and her own mysterious growing hunger. And with this, we see the resentment Colette has over her being, and how she envies and cares about humans, how she envies the fact they're able to grow and change, and how risks don't have a huge meaning to them, as they'll be dead sooner or later. And she just cares about them and wants to help them in any way she can. And you see the way art is used as a form of escapism, to escape one's mind and the memories, but also as a way to leave a mark in the world. How some view their works as their children, a part of them, that's no longer attached to them and they can allow to be set free in the world. Like, I just enjoy that idea that art can in a way help you and allow you to just escape your reality in a way. And how she tries to suppress her growing hunger and tries to be good only for her to lose herself and not be able to keep it down. There are moments when she's asleep that she wakes up and she's covered in dirt and the animals around her are dead, and she's growing afraid that sooner or later she'll lose control and hurt the children she's supposed to be taking care of, because the children, they're all like preschool age. Like, this is really like an elite preschool she's wanting, and how she grows afraid of humans because of the harm they've caused her and the ones she loves, how she thinks she can be amongst them, she wants to, but she finds she's not able to, how she grows to despise herself as well as the world. And also as a part of the story, how it's about trying to help a boy who is not in the best family situation. Like, the mother is manipulative and cruel and a dick, and makes it seem like the stepfather was the problem. Like, this woman is a liar. Like, you feel pity for this boy who's just been rude, and he's extremely young, and you see as well, she is slowly losing everything she cares about and loves until she'll have nothing, and a god of endings will come for her, and that's what she fears the most. And he'll come for her. Like, he just takes and takes and takes until there's nothing. Like, I guess with the fact she is immortal, this is the closest her ending will be. So yeah, overall, I like this, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in May was The River Has Roots by Mel L. Mortar. And this is about in a small town of Thistleford, on the edge of Fairy, dwells the mysterious Hawthorne family. There they tend and harvest the enchanted willows and honor an ancient compact to sing to them in things for their magic. Not more devotedly than the family's latest daughters, Esther and Isabel, who cherish each other as much as they cherish the ancient trees. But when Esther rejects a forceful suitor in favor of a lover from the land of the fairy, not only the sisters bond, but also their lives will be at risk. And with this, I did like how words and riddles and grammar is used in the story to express how one feels about another or how events are told. How there is power in grammar and how it is used as a form of magic to communicate something through meaning of words, through riddles or a song. And with this, I didn't really feel much for Esther and her lover from a person named Win, as it feels like we just jumped right into their relationship and didn't really get to learn more about them. Like, I would have liked to have gotten an idea of, like, at least how they've come to be together, and yeah, I just didn't feel much for that. And I did like seeing this is the care between the sisters, how working together helps them to be strong in doing what they do, and how it feels wrong to be without the other, how they care about one another, and when separated try to find a way to return to the other. And I would have also liked to have gotten a better understanding of the fairyland Arcadia, if it's just like an alternate version of our world, or if it's more to that. Like, I don't know, I still had a lot of questions to this, but I did like it. And I gave it 4 stars. And if you cannot tell, I'm kind of running out of steam. I don't think I've ever reviewed like 9 books in a video, so I'm kind of running out of steam. My apologies. But the last book I finished in May was Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergei Dalchenko. And this was translated by Julia Metov Hersey. And this is about, while vacationing at the beach with her mother, teenage Sasha, oh my god, Samoano meets the mysterious ferret Kozhannikov and finds herself powerless to refuse when this unusual, vaguely sinister man directs her to perform a task with potentially scandalous consequences. He rewards her with a strange gold coin. As the days progress, Sasha carries out other acts for which she receives more coins from Kolesnikov. As the summer ends, her demurring mentor directs her to use her gold to enter the Institute of Special Technologies in a remote village. Against her mother's wishes, Sasha leaves behind all that is familiar. She quickly discovers the Institute's special technologies are unlike anything she has ever encountered. The books are impossible to read, the lessons are obscure, to the point of maddening, and the work refuses memorization. Using terror and coercion, the school does not punish students directly for their transactions and failures. Instead, their families pay a terrible price. Yet, despite her fear, Sasha undergoes changes that defy the dictates of matter and time, experiences which are nothing she has ever dreamed of, and suddenly all she could ever want. And with this, I did like seeing how the illogical for her slowly becomes logical. Like, Sasha's always known studying and nothing else. Like, she is someone who enjoys it. And we see how what she is learning is changing her and affecting her, especially her mind, emotions, and eventually her body, I would say. And we see her becoming aggressive at first before becoming someone who has to think of how to carry on like an average person. And she does change physically, becoming something that is not human but a part of speech apparently. Her and her classmates become parts of speech like verbs and pronouns. And we see her relationships, how she builds friendships and enemies because of her circumstances and how hard she works. But also the competition infused in them by the teachers, how she resents some of them for putting her in a place she didn't want to, and if she doesn't do what they want or expect from her, her loved ones face the consequences of her actions. And something I did like was seeing how there is a separation between her old life and new one, and she can't reconcile the two. And it feels weird going home where things have changed between her and her mom, who now has a new husband and a new baby. And she no longer feels like she belongs there, and it doesn't seem she has a connection to it, as she does have this new brother who she only refers to as the baby, or her and her mom will be talking and the mom will be like, oh yeah, the baby. Like, we're never given the name of the boy. So yeah, overall I did like this. I found it quite interesting and I gave it 4 stars. Now, the books were about to fall again. Now that is everything I read in May and what I plan to read in June. So far, everything else I read in June will be in my June wrap-up. But first, I'm going into The Girl with 1,000 Faces by Sunyi Dean. And this is about when Mercy Chen washes up on the shores of Hong Kong with no family, no money, and no memories. The only refuge she finds is the infamous ghost-infested slum of Kowloon Walled City. Since then, she has rebuilt her life working for the local triad as a ghost talker and dealing with the angry, bitter spirits who haunt the district. The filthy gutters and cramped alleyways of Kowloon have become her home. But the past Mercy can't remember isn't done with her. An unusually powerful ghost has infested Kowloon's waterways, drowning innocents and threatening this district. He claims to know Mercy, and secrets from her past that are best left forgotten. As Mercy is drawn into a deadly cat-and-mouse game with the Magdalene spirit, she begins to realize that the monster she fights within these walls may well be the one of her own making. So I'm very much excited for that, and it is June 1st. I just started this today, and I'm only like 12 pages in, but so far finding it quite intriguing. And the next book I might jump into after I finish this one is Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen, and I'm not sure, I don't believe this is translated. Yes, not. But this is about the Netherlands, 1887. Lucy's twin sister Sarah is unwell. She refuses to eat, mumbles nonsensically, and is increasingly obsessed with a centuries-old corpse recently discovered on her husband's grand estate. The doctor has diagnosed her with a temporary insanity caused by fever of the brain. To protect her twin from a terrible fate in a lunatic asylum, Lucy must unravel the mystery surrounding her sister's condition. But it's clear her sister is hiding something. Then again, Lucy is harboring secrets of her own too. Then the worst happens. Sarah's behavior takes a turn for the strange. She becomes angry, and hungry. Lucy soon comes to suspect that something is trying to possess her beloved sister, or is it madness? As Sarah changes before her very eyes, Lucy must reckon with the dark, monstrous truth, or risk losing her forever. So that is everything I read in May and what I plan to read in June so far. And again, everything I read in June will be in my June wrap-up. But yeah, that is all for this video, so if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me what you've been reading recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel, and if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those links are down below. I will see you guys next time I post a video. Bye.